Stay tuned for today's episode of Breaking the Biz, an informative podcast where we dive into the world of entertainment by interviewing seasoned professionals who have made their mark in the industry. Gain invaluable insights as they share their personal journeys, offering advice on navigating the dynamic landscape of the entertainment industry. Whether you're an aspiring actor, musician, filmmaker, author, animator, or any creative soul, tune in for expert career guidance, insider tips, and first-hand accounts on breaking into the entertainment industry. Get ready to unlock the secrets behind successful careers and fuel your own passion for the limelight. Please remember to like this video and to subscribe to our channels for more great conversations.
Greetings from Breaking the Biz, brought to you by Yes I Can Unity Through Music and Education. I'm William Felber, your navigator through the intriguing universe of the entertainment industry, as revealed by the visionaries and creators who bring it to life. Stay tuned as we delve into diverse insights from the forefront of entertainment, hearing from pioneers, creators, and agents of change. Prepare for a journey filled with tales of innovation, resilience, and the undying quest for artistic brilliance.
Welcome to Breaking the Biz podcast with the Yes I Can crew. We have got a fantastic guest with us tonight. We have Mariah Hanson, who is the executive producer of the Dinah Festival in Palm Springs. She's more than just an event producer extraordinaire. Hanson is the first and foremost an avant-garde business entrepreneur who in the span of 3 decades has created an unsurpassed cultural and social phenomenon. Hanson has built an impressive empire from a small one-night event at the Palm Springs Museum with 1,500 participants to booking lavish locations in deluxe hotels over the course of 5 days and nights with some 10,000 plus attendees and corporate sponsors under her belt. That alone, going from 1,500 to 10,000 people over 5 nights, you need to understand is quite an undertaking. The Dinah has become a rite of passage for queer women and allies, where during 5 event-filled days of music and community, women from all walks of life experience profound connections in a diverse and multicultural setting. The Dinah inspires all women to boldly live out loud while openly celebrating both our differences and commonalities alike. Hanson served 2 terms on the board of Equality California during the pivotal time when the board had to decide whether or not to pursue the gay marriage fight and no longer wait until time was right. Always a pioneer, she voted in favor of moving forward and helped the board achieve history in successfully championing the right to marry. Hanson served on the Aspen Gay and Lesbian Ski Week Board of Directors and held the dual role of development director, raising critical funds to help produce the international event and at the same time to bridge the relationship between corporate donors and the LGBT community. Hanson also served on the board of directors of the San Francisco Community Center, joining to create the vision and raise the money needed to help the community center dream become a reality. The San Francisco Community Center now serves as a model for community centers around the country. Hanson also served on the Cable Car Award Board, an organization where mission was to recognize and celebrate events in the San Francisco LGBT community and in the process help raise the visibility of LGBT events from now and future. Quite an impressive resume. Thank you again for making time for us. I know you've got your festival right around the corner and you're always working on something. So just to spend an hour with us, we are blessed. So thank you.
You got it.
I want to start with a question when I have musical people who just love all walks of life of music. When did you fall in love with music for the first time?
God, when I was little, I was in love with the Beatles. I don't know if any of you even remember who they are, but and I remember like being so young that I actually thought they were in the cabinet. You know, the music was coming out and they must be in there somewhere. Music's just one of those really incredible experiences because when it moves you physically, and then there's lyrics that can touch you emotionally. And it can bond you with other people who are having a similar experience too. So it's one of those commonalities that I think is really essential to any event that you're producing. I mean, the music is just so key because it's the special sauce, and it's also the glue.
I love it. And obviously, we're going to get into your producing of music festivals. And obviously, you find artists that it touches you with the music. The lyrics have to touch you. It has to be the total package. And you've got quite a good track record of finding those artists before they blow up. You know, the Lady Gagas and such, and we'll talk about that when we get there. When you were young, what was the dream job when you were a little girl? What did you think you were going to do?
I definitely knew I wanted to be in entertainment. And I think when I was super young, I probably wanted to be more on, the front side of entertainment, the entertainer. Um, as I grew older, I really had a knack for producing, for bringing everything together, for being the traffic controller, for being the fire chief. You're a lot of different things when you're a producer. Uh, and and then you also, if you have a very high profile event, you have to develop um, an accessible persona. And so there is kind of the entertainment element to it when you're producing, if you're also in front of it as the figurehead or the persona behind it. So when you're doing a smaller niche event like I do, my customers want to know who's producing it. They want to hear from me. They want to believe in what I believe in. They want to connect, make sure that we're all in alignment, and that I'm leading with wisdom and with a broad point of view about where to take people when we go through the journey of the festival.
I love that, and you mentioned when indeed a leader believes in what they're doing, others can really jump behind it. And obviously going from, 1,500 people to 10,000 people from 1 day to 5 days, that's quite an undertaking. And, I've been there, just happened to be there during that time. I think I told you when we met, and I was just like, wow, man, the Palm Springs is packed right now. And I went out to the pool. I went out to the pool and everyone was, like just partying up. And I was like, okay, this is legit. I want to know, so what was your career path? So you obviously had those skills of communication. You said, being the leader, putting the pieces together. And I'm curious, your career roadmap, where you pick up all of those skills. You obviously identified it very early on, but did you go like, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to produce festivals? Talk me through, your education, your journey, and your steps.
What I thought I was going to end up doing for my profession was completely opposite of what I ended up doing. So, John Lennon says life is one of the Beatles. Says life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. And I just think that's a magnificent statement, because I think that life kind of leads you to where you're supposed to end up. I thought I was going to be an English professor at the college level, and I studied to obtain a teaching degree, and was accepted into a really exclusive program at Berkeley, UC Berkeley. They only accepted 15 students to go through a teaching program. And when you were through, you would have a credential to teach. Actually, I think it was at the high school level. And I was in my probably like mid-20s when this happened. And when I was accepted, two things happened. When the guy called me and said, hey, I'm going to offer this to you, but you really have to be sure, because it's only 15 people that get to do this. And I'm all, oh my God, I'm so honored. Absolutely, I'm sure. And so I accepted. And then my father caught wind of this decision. And he, having once been a high school teacher, took me on a trip to the eastern states, the New England states, to talk me out of it. And he was successful. He thought a career in education for me would be a huge mistake. And so I went for my other love that I was naturally good at. I threw amazing parties in college, and we can talk about that. But so I became, uh, a lesbian nightclub promoter, and I'm sure my father at that point wished I'd been a school teacher, but because this is going back 30 years and wasn't quite as accepted as it is now. But yeah, I thought I was going to teach. And, when you're a really good producer and really have an incredible event under your belt, you end up being a teacher anyway. So you get to do that as well. But
I was going to say, I mean, in the end, you're still curating, you're still opening people's
absolutely.
minds, you're still talking and teaching acceptance,
Yeah.
diversity and inclusion, all very important lessons. We have so much division that people need a little bit more of that education. It's fascinating to me because normally parents are like, let's do the lawyer route, let's do the doctor route, the education safe, you'll have some stability.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it's quite interesting though, and the fact that you threw your own events in college. Maybe your dad kind of foresaw that talent as something that could be even bigger, impacting more people
Yeah.
than just that classroom.
Well, I think at the end of the day, he was super proud of me. But
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah, you have to be.
yeah.
So let's talk about some of those college parties.
Okay.
Are you the one bringing the PA, the band, doing all the pieces?
My early career doesn't look good on paper, but I'm happy to share it with you. Um, so I went to Sonoma State University for the first 2 years of my college career, and I was turning 21. And I had a boyfriend at the time, and he was in a band, but they didn't have a sound system. But their friends was in a band, and they had a sound system. So I was going to throw this party, and I had to have both bands in order to get the sound system. And I talked the dorm manager into letting me take over the Sonoma State University cafeteria and throwing my 21st birthday party there. This is in 1981. And he said yes, which I thought was crazy, but all right. And then he said there was two caveats. I couldn't charge and I couldn't serve alcohol. And I said, you got it. But no one showed up from dorm management. They just basically gave me the keys to the cafeteria. So I had 5 kegs of Lone Star beer. We charged $5 at the door and had a raging party. I woke up the next day to have breakfast, and my truck was in the middle of the quad in front of the dorm doors. I don't even know how it got there. It's hard to imagine. You have to know what Sonoma State looks like, but that was a uh-oh moment where I knew I was in big trouble. And I got in a lot of trouble. And I was told, can never throw a party again. So the next year, there's a coffee shop on campus. So I went back to dorm management and I said, look, just let me throw one more party. It's my last year. I promise I'll obey all the rules this time. And he agreed again. I must have been super persuasive at a young age, but, and I did the exact same thing. And I think for a while they banned parties at Sonoma State University, but that's how I got my start. I threw really fun parties in college and then took everyone out to Denny's Grand Slam breakfast with all the money we made the next day.
I love it. When the Grand Slams were $3.99 and everything was a little more affordable. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So after these parties, You mentioned then did you find a club where you started booking? What was your next move
Well,
after that?
the next move was I graduated from college, and that's tough. Like I had an English major and I thought I was going to get a job everywhere. And I don't think I interviewed well. English major wasn't this in demand degree. So I ended up making $5 an hour at this Spree outlet in San Francisco, folding clothes. And I was just blown away that I spent 4 years in college and I ended up folding clothes. And at the same time, this kind of new concept was, taking shape, and it was called nightclub promoter, which are really common now, where someone would go into a nightclub, and nightclubs are funny. One nightclub might be packed on Saturday, but dead on Friday. It could be packed on Wednesday and Thursday and slow on Saturday. You never know which night's going to be the big hit for a space. There's usually 2 nights that are. Um, and so there were people like me back then, this is like 35 years ago, um, went on into nightclubs and went, hey, you're not busy on Sunday. And so why don't you let me have your nightclub on Sunday? Kind of like, sounds a lot like my dorm beginning. And I'll take the door, you take the bar, you provide bartenders and security, I'll provide the door staff, and I'll pack your club. And it just worked. It was a hit. The first night I threw a party like that, it was on a Sunday, and I was like Mr. Magoo. I picked January 13th, probably 1990 or 1989 or something, and that was Martin Luther King's birthday weekend. And so Monday was a holiday, and I wasn't even paying attention. I had no idea. So I had just shy of 1,100 people at my first party, and that was a huge success, line out the door, and a career was born. I mean, I realized that I could make money doing this, and that I had a knack for bringing people together and then binding them with music. We always had really great DJs. That was always super important. Um, so that's how I got my start.
I love it. And once you get that feeling of bringing people together, even just the 1,100 people, and you're like, I put the music together, and what a great way, connecting with a location.
Yep.
You deal with the headache of the alcohol, you deal with the security, and if there's any fights, I'll take care of the acts and making sure that it's packed. It's awesome. And then I imagine, did you go to other venues and then go, hey, your Tuesday's off and your Thursday's off, and you just kind of grew?
Yep. I did Saturday and Sunday for probably 12 years in San Francisco. And then I would pick different nights just as one-ups, what we called them then. And it just was very, very successful. People came to trust my events and knew that if it was, I called it MT Productions, that if it was an MT Productions, that they knew that they were going to get something that they could rely on for a consistent evening with good music. And probably a couple years into being a nightclub promoter, I decided to take on the Dinah Shore weekend in Palm Springs. And so I wasn't the creator of that. There was a golf tournament, and queer women would go down and watch the golf tournament. And somebody decided they were going to throw a party. But the parties they were throwing, they just didn't have that pizzazz. You would take 50 rooms in a hotel and, maybe get some good talent, but we're mixing queer women with families and, business people. And it just wasn't this safe space that it should be. And so that had been going on for a couple of years, and I thought, oh man, I can. And it was like tying a balloon to a speaker. There was no decor, the lighting was minimal, there was no pizzazz. So I thought I could really do something with this. And so I went to compete against there was a couple people that are already doing it. And, it was the Mr. Magoo thing again. I mean, I really have to say I have had some luck in my early career. So I booked Martha Wash of CC and the Music Factory. And you may not know that name, but they became huge. And when I booked her, CC and the Music Factory, they were popular. But by the time she played my event, there was like 5 or 6 hits in the top 10 or the top 20. And so it was like this really great book for me. And I had, I think, probably 1,750 women at the event in the Palm Springs Museum. And that was phenomenal. Although the Palm Springs Museum did not appreciate my party too much. And so the way you could throw a party at the Palm Springs Museum was you paid $2,500 and then you were a corporate benefactor. And as a corporate benefactor, you were entitled to have a company cocktail reception at the Palm Springs Museum. So I wrote a check for $2,500 and I became a corporate benefactor and I threw my cocktail reception. And they were so horrified that they rewrote their corporate benefactor program so that could never, ever happen again. And this is why I kind of laugh, because these stories are great, but they don't really look well on a resume.
I think they're fantastic. I think it's figuring out how to not break the rules and just enough to, and that just is smarts to me. Like you paid the due, you did what you needed to do. You had a cocktail party, just a little, probably a really good cocktail party. At least they didn't say you can't charge and you can't have alcohol.
Exactly. I didn't do anything. I wasn't supposed to do, but it was definitely an out of control party for the museum, but also it was probably an out of control party. Like one of the things that will inevitably happen if you become a promoter or you're involved in creating a festival is you learn pretty early on how important it is to keep an event on this side of safety. And that is such a fine line. You don't know when something had happened that can turn a mass amount of people from being in a controlled, very loving, very high, good vibe environment to something that actually can really quickly go south. And so I learned a really important lesson super early on, just not only the importance of security, but also the importance of being staffed and having your staff behave in a way that projected a certain vibe so that people stayed on this side of safety. And it's nuanced. I even have a hard time explaining it, but it's critical at any major event that you do is to stay on this side of safety, because you're dealing with so many people can go out of control so quickly. But if you have these kind of things in place, enough security, just a sense in your event of safety and just a good safe vibe, you can usually kind of control it pretty quickly. But listen, I've been at my event before where I felt like it was going to go south, and that's when you shut it down. Like you'll create your own sense of when your crowd's in control and when it isn't. And I remember it was only happened once in 33 years, but I thought the crowd was going to go south. And we shut down the music. We was really close to closing, or maybe we were like past closing, but we usually went for an hour longer every year. And we closed it down because, we wanted people to be safe. You're only as good as your last party. And so safety is probably one of the more important things that I think about when I'm producing an event.
And it's sad too, obviously, people coming together to celebrate a very important cause. You would want people to be on their best behavior, but when you are serving a lot of alcohol, people just get stupid. So it happens. So you do that. Obviously, the museum not too happy with you. But at that point, do you realize, okay, I'm on to something. I booked an artist that ahead of time that blew up in perfect amount of time,
Yeah.
to give you that clout. You would then go, all right, I want to be the official promoter. Like, how do they go? Take the crown, run with it.
It was so organic. I don't know that there was a whole lot of mapping it out. It just was, the strength of, no army can withstand the strength of an idea whose time has come. It was that kind of a concept where I just moved in that direction and I didn't think twice and I didn't second guess. I knew that I was supposed to be doing this. And so I built the path there. And I didn't think about any naysayers, anybody thinking that I couldn't do it. I just believed that I could. And I think that's another really important element when you're doing things like this is that you have to be the measure of your own yardstick. Did I say that right?
I like that.
Yeah. Um, you do because, and I'm sure you've experienced it already. Everybody has their own idea about how your event should go. And you have to trust your idea. Yeah, you have to trust that if it's resonating, just go with it because your people will find you.
I love that too. I think a very important thing is if you think it's a great event, if you think it's a great concept and you believe in it, others will believe in it. It's you're manifesting it. Obviously, going from a museum to different hotels and packages and the coordination. How big is your team? Like when you started, was that just you? I mean, I am imagining to be able to pull off a festival and all those moving parts of people staying at hotels I remember when I came out, there was the events everywhere.
Right. Well, ask me, can you repeat the core question?
Sure. So obviously, when you started, doing at the museum, you have the 1,500 people, but it real quickly explodes to where you're taking over hotels. You have people staying at different hotels, different locations, different DJs. Is this how many people are involved in your team?
Sorry.
Obviously,
Okay.
you're
Yeah.
the chief, but you got to have people underneath
Well,
you.
it's larger than it used to be. Um, and but my core team is probably five managers, one of them who's kind of the second in command. And so I have a production manager. I have a general manager, I have a production manager, I have a front of house manager, I have a sponsor manager, and a premium pass manager. So we build, and then a publicist, and so they work with me to build it, and I think front of house is critical because there's so many things happen at front of house. It's not just taking a ticket or taking someone's money. It's also really assessing. It's your front line, and so you're also assessing who's coming in because you don't want to let someone in who's trashed by the time they get to your front door. You have to think about things like that. And so your front door is an admin aspect to what you do, but it's also your front line. It's your front defense to make sure that your party has, stays safe. It's also your vibe. So, and that's really important to me as a festival producer, that my front of the house staff is super sweet, super kind to people, patient, and very caring. Because I look at any festival, people are coming to belong. They're coming to join with like-minded people, whether it's music or whether it's queer people, it could be Hispanic. We're coming together for something that's very common cultural. And so when that's happening, you don't know, maybe 98% of the people are fine and they just want to come and party. But maybe 2% aren't. Maybe 2% are heartbroken. Maybe 2% have just been alienated by their family. Maybe 2% just got terminal news regarding health, just experienced a breakup. You don't know who those people are. And so in my front of house, I talk to them and I tell them, we don't know, they don't glow. So we have to treat everybody that walks through the door like they're that person. Because if everybody can feel a sense of acceptance and welcoming and connection the minute they get to your door, they take that vibe with them. That's why we don't have very many problems at my festival, because we start with the vibe. We start with we're really happy you're here. And I'm sure you've all been to nightclubs where the security guard is a jerk. You know, they're not very nice when they're taking your ID. And then you get to the cashier and you don't get a welcome and you don't get a hi. There's like $10 or $20. You know, you get to the bar and the bartender doesn't get eye contact with you or say, be right with you. They're actually kind of rude too. So if you walk through the security, the front of the house, and the bartender, and you've been shut down at each place, how comfortable are you going to be if you're by yourself to turn and look at somebody and go, hey, hi? You're not. You're going to be super closed because that's the experience you've had so far. So we do the opposite. I have a front of house staff that helps people open up and helps them feel super safe. Like, you can go in, you're good here, and talk to anybody you want. We create that vibe and it happens. It's actually super, super magical. So there's a lot that goes on at front of house. Another area that I pay a lot of attention to is I have a sponsorship team, because you need your festival to be as underwritten as you can. And sponsorship dollars are really hard to get. But if you can get them, especially if you can even just get one really strong sponsor, then that's your door opening to other sponsors coming in. But we have a team that works with our sponsors from first day of the festival to the last day of the festival, because if they don't have this stellar experience with you, if they don't think they got a return on their money, if they don't feel important, like you really cared about the check they wrote you and the product or service that they were expecting you to promote for them, if they don't get that connection from you, that you're there with them as their partner, your chance of them coming back, it's slim. And so we really take care of sponsors. And I usually have a really high return of sponsors. We can get into that if there's interest there, because that's a whole fun topic. But then we have a whole team that handles our premium tickets. So I don't call them VIP anymore because I just don't really like the term. But you can pay extra to get a better view of whatever act we have. You can pay extra to get exclusive bar areas. And I find that people need that. It's just a psychological aspect of group mentality. Some people need to just feel like they're VIP, although I don't like to use that term anymore. But so we provide that. And then production aspect is key. You know, your talent's key. Talent, it's really tough. I mean, they're really expensive again. They were super affordable, and then it just skyrocketed before the pandemic. And now, and then the price came down, but now it's stratospheric again. So how do you help your event stand out so that artists want to play your event? Because if you can get to that position, you have the best negotiating power that you can possibly have in an incredibly competitive environment where they're getting top dollar. And we get the best deals with our acts. I've had acts cut their price in half just to play the event. And I don't have this huge, I'm not Coachella, there's not that many people at this event, but they want to play it, and they want to play it because we create the most amazing experience for them.
Absolutely Love that. And you're walking through all of those important parts. I could not agree more. I could just think about a month ago, I went to a club and had the awful experience that you just talked about.
Yeah.
From like like whoa, what list are you on? Go over there. You need, oh, your VIP, you need that, but you then have to wait in line again. And then I'm like, I don't even care. Just I'm in. I want to go to the bar. And then the same thing with the bar. And what do you want? And they just slammed it like so. I've had that. We've all had the intimidating door guy who just, so I love bringing people in and setting that trend from the beginning. Yeah. All of the pieces, and I agree with you. There are those people who need that upper experience and have to feel special. And if you can make them feel special, amen. Yeah. I want to talk about the talent because I love the fact of people wanting to be at your event. Play for you. For our listeners and our crew here, can you name some of the artists that you have been blessed to book?
Sure. Baby Rexha, Lizzo, Iggy Azalea, Meghan Trainor, Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, Pussycat Dolls with Nicole Schwarzenegger. God, so many. Jessie Reyez, who's about to take off. Doechii, G-Flip, Princess Nokia, Snow the Product. God, that's just off the top of my head.
Those are some Kesha, those are some pretty decent artists that you just named there. But like, and
Fletcher, she's gotten really big. Tegan and Sarah, Chaka Khan, Natasha Bedingfield. More. I mean, we've had some really amazing artists on our stage.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've also gotten them before with your experience. I know you got some of those artists before they've blown up as big as they are, or those type of big artists coming and, like you said, cutting that fee in half to perform.
So someone like Natasha Bedingfield was very established, but she wanted to play the Dinah. And so, we probably, we got a very, very good deal with her. Doechii played it last year, and, she's a 6-figure act now. She wanted to play the Dinah. So we have stories like that where they'll actually contact us. And that's the best situation you want to find yourself in.
Sure. Instead of the, how much do you have, or what's your budget? Exactly. I learned that from you for sure. Never again will I say my budget is.
Yeah, you never tell them your budget. And that's a game.
Yeah.
And they'll ask you again. It's like being interviewed, and you just stick to it.
I don't have a budget. What do you need? Until we get to the Dinah level where they're coming to us, I totally get it. Talk me through how important networking has been to your success.
It's key. And it's key. I don't do what I used to do when I was a little younger, but I will tell you, when I was in my late 20s, 30s, and 40s, I'm a little older than that now, I went everywhere with my business card, and the best place is nonprofit events. So I would be always at nonprofit because that's good to do. It's just good to be giving back and to whatever community that you're in, to be involved in helping that community to be better and stronger and equitable. And but there's sponsors there. So it's a really great opportunity, because if your event aligns with the nonprofit that you're at, then the sponsor who's at that event would see value in your event too. So I did that quite a bit, but I wasn't shy, and I'm an introvert. So that's a whole nother element to this, is I think a lot of people, we adapt to extroversion in our society. And I think a lot of us are introverts. And so that kind of behavior of being super forward and hey, here's my card, or hey, I want to meet you, um, it's not natural, but it's definitely something to develop because you're out there, especially if you're an introvert, up against a bunch of extroverts that have no problem asking these questions. And so you really do have to develop that small talk, that walking up to someone who would be a good fit for your event and doing an intro. And, when I first started out, so networking's key. I would never downplay how important that is. And then once you get super established, it still happens, but you don't have to go find it. It usually finds you. So that's kind of, but we're talking a 35-year career. So it took a long time to get to that point, and it works out well because I don't have the energy that I did. So I'm not out at all these events anymore, but I highly recommend and have cards on you and learn how to just think really quick on your feet and learn how to talk about your event in a way that's not selling too hard, but is really share your excitement and your passion for what you do, because that probably will get more doors open for you than anything. It's just being really excited about what you do.
I love that. Being excited about what you do, or even just being excited, like what you bring to the table. And it can be very, very natural, for sure. I love that. And you mentioned going to nonprofit events and that give back.
Yeah.
Obviously you're giving back right now and sharing knowledge and sharing, those special little tidbits that you need for success. Talk me through who's been a mentor for you. You're obviously giving back and mentoring all of us here. Is there a mentor that comes to mind that just impacted you?
I didn't have anybody. It was really competitive when I started out because the whole concept of promotion was new. And I don't think people, I don't, I don't remember anybody thinking that the pie was big enough. It is. It's a myth to think that it's not. But I think that sometimes when you're younger, I didn't see it that way. I'm going to be super honest, and I don't feel like anybody around me was looking at it like that too. So, it really was about throwing the best event that you could, and that's really key. It's not about throwing a better event than someone else. Just stay in your own lane. Throw the best event you can throw. And once you throw the best event you can throw, figure out how to throw a better event than the last event you threw. Like, be the measure, of your own yardstick. And if you can stay in your own lane and just get better at what you do, eventually that kind of pie, you do realize that it's big enough. But
I think that's important.
That was pretty competitive.
And I think now it's interesting, it is a misconception, but there is some beauty to supporting those who are doing the same work that you're doing. I feel like, I see the competition for sure. I think staying in the lane is very important, but I also think supporting others can come back in a good karma type of form.
So here's how that shift happened for me. And it wasn't like I didn't support people. You just were doing your thing and just hoping that you could make whatever you were doing work. But there was a period in my career, probably 10 years into my career, maybe 14, when I had business partners and they didn't want to be partners anymore. And so we had this split, and they were, I would say, they were a couple, and they showed really well, because I was always kind of the business person and just and I showed pretty well too, but they were a package. And when we were partners, they were incredibly competitive. So we didn't work with other nightclubs. We didn't, you know, but once we separated, it opened a whole new door for me because I realized that one of the best ways um, to promote your own event is actually to work with other people. And so I created what's called the Club Partner Program because we were kind of the Grand Dame event, but there was clubs all over the country that nightclub promoters that could benefit from me calling them and saying, hey, I'm going to give you yourself a couple passes to the Dinah, and I'm going to give you a couple passes to raffle off at your event. You can do a Dinah party, so you get in for free. A couple of your guests get in for free, and I think it'll pack your club. And then we'll support each other. I'll promote your club, you promote my event, and I think it could be a win-win. And it just took off. It was such a win-win. Dinah parties packed nightclubs all over the country. And I was supporting younger promoters who I wasn't a promoter anymore. And I was supporting younger promoters, and I knew how hard it was. And I just created a whole new paradigm of, look, it just doesn't need to be dog eat dog. This can be just throw good parties. The market will decide who has longevity and who doesn't. And they decide it by how good your party is. So if you throw good parties, you don't have to worry about anybody else's party. You just have to worry about your own. And you could support someone else's party because you're throwing such a good party that people are going to go to it. And so I really did shift in that paradigm. And then that was a feel good. And that started changing. I just matured. And then it became mentoring other people and really loving it, loving sharing. I mean, I've made every mistake in the book. I've had every crummy thing happen to me. I have this whole history of challenges after challenge, and how did you deal with it? And here I am, still producing this event. And so to be able to share any kind of wisdom or knowledge or experience that I have gone through so that someone else maybe can avoid that pitfall, I'll do in a heartbeat. And here's why. Because the truth of the matter is that what we're doing in our industry is we are at our very core, we're creating community. We're creating a space where people feel like they belong. You could call it a music festival. You can call it a party. You can call it a nightclub experience, a theater. You're creating community. And that's a powerful thing to create. And it takes a lot of responsibility to do that well, because it's so important. And so when you kind of start looking at it like that, all of a sudden helping other people feels like not only the right thing to do, but it has a lot of joy in it. Because you're just making the world a better place. So
I think that is absolutely beautiful. I could not agree more. And it's all about community, and you're bringing a beautiful community together. Palm Springs supports you. I'd imagine you're bringing in economic development and dollars everywhere.
Yeah. I think Palm Springs is quite happy with the Dinah for a couple of reasons. But I'll tell you, I went from being one of the largest events in Palm Springs to being one of the smallest. It's now this really cool, hip music town. And the Dinah for at least 20 years was one of the major events there. It just wasn't considered this live music town or party town. It was really a retirement community. And so, Coachella really put Palm Springs on the map in a way that I didn't have the bandwidth, to do. And they're really responsible for that whole valley becoming a very hot spot for live music. And so that's been super fun. But they really appreciate my event. They gave me a key to the city, which was a big deal. But they appreciate the event because, I'm considered a legacy event in Palm Springs. So there's like 10 events, I think, in Palm Springs that are legacy events that Palm Springs just thinks they're really important because of the message that they send. So not only am I a queer event, but I'm a women's event. And they both are, have been, marginalized communities that the city really stands behind and is very proud that our event is there. So that helps.
I think it's beautiful. I mean, and how amazing having a strong, powerful female behind it as well. I want to ask, what is the biggest piece of advice? You mentioned making mistakes and learning from them. And I try to tell everyone it's okay to make mistakes.
Absolutely.
You need to honestly make mistakes to make the right decisions. You have to find the wrong jobs to find exactly what it is, which is the right job and what you're passionate about. So I'm a big believer in making mistakes, but I also feel that responsibility of, hey, I've made these mistakes. Don't make these silly ones. You can avoid them if you listen to people like us. But I want to know, what's the biggest piece of advice you would give to your younger self with all that you've learned in this 35 years of a career?
Oh, I think that I would tell my younger self that everything works out. Everything comes together. I tend to run super hot, so I can get super stressed. Maybe that's not as true today as it was when in my younger career, but yeah, I used to get super stressed about things, and it's so unhealthy. So I would just say that everything works out. Just keep focused on a good intention and a good result. I think that I'm going to get into a whole new neuroplasticity, learn about it, create really good neurotic pathways in your brain, because this is a high stress job. Things go wrong. I've described my position as a fire chief. I literally, producing a music festival is like putting out little fires for 5 days because stuff goes wrong. And so how do you handle it? And, and we talk about that as a team because we handle it kindly. Stuff goes wrong. You're going to make mistakes. That's the way to learn how to never do something again. So here's a really stupid one. When you always have backup 12-volt batteries, so minor, right? Until the mic battery dies and you don't have a backup. Well, you're screwed. Something that minor can be catastrophic, or it certainly feel catastrophic. But you learn those lessons. So we never don't have a backup 12. I don't even know if they run in 12-volt batteries anymore. They probably don't, but just an example.
It definitely was on a rider. I just did a show and all the 12 volts are on there. So yeah. it is a doable. Yes.
Yeah. It's just like some really basic stuff that's so preventable happens, and it'll feel catastrophic if the mic goes out and you don't have a second mic to hand or, a backup battery. But stuff happens too that is completely out of your control. Like I remember one year, 2009, I was working with Noble House, and they didn't want the group. They had just bought the hotel that I'd had a long-term contract with. They didn't want an LGBT group. I believe that's my perception. For some reason, my contract was canceled. I'm left without a contract. And I always have, my contracts are 2, 3, 4, 5 years out. And so, how do you deal with that? And, you just get up and be resilient and don't give up until you get a new contract. Sometimes it's just the force of your own will that gets you through things. But, I think making mistakes is such a good thing because it's inevitable. And so,
yeah. As long as you understand it's inevitable, yeah, and it's part of the journey, we always talk about that journey being so important. more important than the destination sometimes. So I'm a firm believer on that. Mariah, I want to honestly thank you again for your time tonight. I think you bring such an important lesson. Success, I think you can follow somebody's success off of their dedication, their resilience. I do not think it was just a simple mistake that you had those parties at Sonoma, you broke the rules, and I think all of that led up to what you're doing right now. And the community aspect is so important.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you again for your time. I would love to bring some students to experience the festival, to see it all come to life and to fruition.
Absolutely.
You are an absolute amazing role model. I just want to thank you again for your time, your mentorship, and your guidance, because go for it.
You're very welcome to bring some students to the event. And let's talk about that after, but I think that sounds like a wonderful idea.
Okay. I love it.
And it was really an honor and a pleasure to be here with everyone. So thank you for allowing me to share my story with you.
As we conclude another enriching episode, we hope you found inspiration in the stories shared today. Let's take a moment to honor Yes I Can's role in bringing Breaking the Biz to life. Yes I Can's commitment to empowering young people with disabilities through education, advocacy, and mentorship shines brightly, paving paths of opportunity and dialogue. This podcast celebrates the organization's dedication to nurturing talent and facilitating impactful discussions. Breaking the Biz is more than a podcast. It's a part of Yes I Can's broader mission to amplify voices, dismantle barriers, and craft a world that's more inclusive and accessible for everyone. Each episode is a chapter in our shared narrative of progress, education, and empowerment, driven by the spirit of Yes I Can. Thank you for spending your time with us on Breaking the Biz. Continue to challenge the status quo and share stories that resonate. Until our paths cross again, let's keep transforming aspirations into achievements and infuse every endeavor with optimism. Here's to advancing the landscape of the entertainment industry, one episode at a time. I'm your host, William Felber. See you next time.